Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3. And yeah, sorry for the lack of videos lately. I've just been really tired because of the summer heat. It's just really killing me right now. But yeah, well, enough about that. Now let's continue with the update video. And it's a pretty large one because I haven't made an update video in quite a while. And like usually when I make update videos, I realize from time to time, oh, I haven't showed you this one, I haven't showed you this one, I haven't showed you this one, and so on and so on. Yeah, this is like your typical update video. Basically, it's probably going to be longer than I anticipate, but um, you could say that I mean, usually I start with the. Okay, I'm gonna do this right now as well, so I'm not really sure why I said that, but I'm gonna start with the non-horror titles first, the DVDs, and then I'm gonna continue with the horror titles, and then I'm going to move on to the Blu-rays. So yeah, there you go. First up, these first, let's see, one, two, three, four, five. The next five ones are actually like four packs with films. First up, we have drama movies right here with, let's see the films in this: Morning Glory, In Her Defense, Quiet Thunder, which I have seen before, which is a really entertaining, so bad it's good film, and After the Rain. Now, I think this is quite interesting because you can say it's drama movies right up here, but I've seen Quiet Thunder, and that is definitely more of an action film than a drama film. I think that's really strange. But anyway, that's the only one I've seen in this four pack, so I'm looking forward to see the other ones as well. So yeah, there you go. Now let's see here. The next one is action and sci-fi movies, right here. And in this one includes 83 Hours Till Dawn, Vengeance, the story of Tony Simo, Cyborg 3. I recently watched Cyborg 2 on streaming, I believe, but there's no way to get that film on DVD, it seems like, so it's a little bit. That really bugs me because I have the first one. Anyway, Cyborg 3, the Recycler, and Rising Storm. I think I might have Rising Storm in another release, I'm not too sure, but not seen any of these films before though, so yeah. Now let's see, the next four pack. Now I have seen. Let's see, I've seen three of these films before, actually. I think this is this very same release that one of my friends have. That's the way I watched them. So this four pack, family movies, really, really interesting type of films because some of them are so bad it's good, really. So first up we have Arthur's Quest, which I didn't really like too much, and then you have a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is, it has to be seen to be believed. It's a really weird, strange film. It's quite funny because of how bizarre it is. And then you have Prince Brat and the Whipping Boy, which I have not seen. That's the only one I haven't seen in this set. And The Prince and the Surfer, which is a really, really 90s film. If you've seen what I mean, if you see this film, you know what I mean. And that one also has Robert Englund in it, so that's quite interesting. Robert Englund as the bad guy. And then we have the next four pack. This is big drama movies. And this one includes Lewis and Clark and George, Purgatory, which I think is some late 80s women in prison film, which I haven't seen yet. I think I might have that one before. Minefield, I think that's Michael Ironside on the front cover, not really sure. And Flipping, which I have no idea what it's all about, so yeah. Let's see here. And then the last four pack for this update, Hollywood's Best. Right here. When this one includes Courage to Love, Wildflowers, My Boyfriend's Back, which is not supposed to be confused with the 90s film which came out, which I'm a very big fan of, and Martians Go Home, which I've heard really bad things about. It's about like Randy Quaid being an alien or something. It's something really strange like that. So yeah, that sounds interesting. Now let's continue with the non-packs or whatever. So yeah. First up, we have a film by Ralph Bakshi. I'm a big fan of Ralph Bakshi in general. I do not care too much for his, what's it called? Cool World, I believe it was called. I thought it was a little bit so-so, but the other ones I've really been a big fan of. I mean, especially Wizards. I think that's my favorite Ralph Bakshi film. And Fire and Ice, and what's that other film he directed? Lord of the Rings, which I don't think is as bad as many people make it out to be. But I mean, all other than that, I've not seen all the other Ralph Bakshi films, but this is his film, Hey Good Looking, which I think this came out in the early 80s, so this could be interesting, so yeah. And then we have a film which I didn't really I didn't expect this to find this because I thought this didn't really have any release at all. But apparently, I got a hold of this Dutch release of the film. I think that's the only way to get this on DVD. Saw this back like way back in the day. Crime Zone, real entertaining, funny, sci-fi action horror, not horror, but sci-fi action film with David Carey in it. So yeah, Crime Zone. And then we have a film directed by the infamous Uli Lommel, or Uli Lommel, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, but the guy was responsible for most of those really stupid, bad, retarded, like serial killer films that came out in the late 80s, not late 80s, but late 90s, early 2000s. But this is his film called Cold Heat. Some sort of action film, but I've been told that this isn't really a whole lot of action in it, but I'm still gonna give it a chance because, I mean, it's late 80s, so it could be entertaining, so yeah. Now the next one is another one that I've been wanting to see for quite a while, mainly because of the cost. So you get White Sands with Willem Dafoe, Mickey Rourke, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Always butcher her name. Not seen her in a film in quite a while. Not really sure what's up with that, but with a cost like that, you also have Samuel Jackson in this film. I think this is one of his earliest roles ever, really. This came out in 1992, according to the back of this DVD. So, but yeah, I just had to pick it up because of the cost mainly. That's really the main reason why I picked it up. And then we have a newer film, like some Western drama action film called No Man's Land. Terrible title. I think there's at least 3 or 4 other titles with that same title. Yeah, once again, it's yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say. Some Western drama film. So yeah. And then we have another newer action film with Kevin Bacon. That's the reason why I picked it up. One Way. Not heard anyone talk about this one. This is basically a blind buy. Just picked up because of Kevin Bacon. So yeah, there you go. Let's see here. Yeah, right there. And there we have an early 80s comedy film called Joysticks. Had to pick this one up. Couldn't pass on it. Looks really entertaining in a 80s cheese type of way. So yeah, Joysticks. And then we have another one of those. I think this is pretty much in the same category as Joysticks, but Losing It, which is I think one of the earlier roles of Tom Cruise, and Shelley Long in this one as well. 80s comedy, feel good film or something like, or maybe like just a goofball sex comedy. I'm not really sure, but looks really cool. And then we have the. I'm not sure if this is the very, very original film about this. If they've ever made a film before this, I apologize. But for some reason, I always thought this is like maybe the first one they made out of this. So, The Adventures of Robin Hood, with Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland. Never seen this one, but always wanted to see it. I've only seen the let's see, the Disney classic one, Russell Crowe one, and the Kevin Costner one, Prince of Thieves. I think I might have seen that one with not Kevin Costner, but the one with Sean Connery, which is called. Is that also called? I think that's only called Marion and Robin, or Robin or Marion or something. I've not seen that one, but might have seen it on TV a long time ago. But this one I've never seen, and I'm sure of that. So, yeah, really glad that I found this for a really good price. So yeah. So let's continue with the next stack. The first one is the. What's it called? Homeward Bound. I think this is just called The Incredible Journey. I mean, because this is the remake that came out in the 90s, and I've not seen the original one, even though I have the original one in my collection before. But this one I do remember I watched in the early 2000s, and I thought it was a pretty good film. Not seen it since. I'm not really sure if it holds up today. So, but yeah, really looking forward to rewatch that one. And then we have is this a Korean? Yeah, it's a Korean action film. When it said like that true impressive action taken meets old boy. That sounds interesting. The Man from Nowhere. Yeah. Korean action films. Can never go wrong with that. And then we have a film which I think it's a Studio Ghibli release or whatever. The film is called Only Yesterday. Been starting to collect some of these like anime or like Ghibli films. Not seen too many of those. I think I've only seen 2 or 3 of those, but I'm a big fan, so yeah. And then we have another Japanese film, possibly a much more brutal one. Another Lonely Hitman. I think this is directed by Kinji Fukasaku, if I'm not completely wrong. Oh, my bad. It's directed by Rokuro Mishizuki. probably butcher his name, but yeah. 90s Yakuza film, I believe. And then we have an Australian action thriller film. No, it's a thriller film. An Australian thriller called Noise. Once again, with those like one title films, terrible title, but the film itself could be really good, so yeah. And then we have a film with James Stewart, the Glenn Miller story. Big fan of James Stewart in general, so couldn't pass on that one. And then we have another film that I've been wanting to see again, because I have seen it before, but I never found it on DVD or Blu-ray anywhere. I think this have a really nice, like, Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release at this point, but that was just too pricey, and I was so lucky to find the DVD of this. So, Red Sun Rising, with Don the Dragon Wilson. I think this might be one of the very best Don the Dragon Wilson films I've seen. So, if you're a big fan of the actor himself, go check this one out. This is one of the best ones in my opinion. So, yeah. And then we have more martial arts action. This film is called, I think this has different titles, but apparently over here it's called Meltdown with Jet Li. This is from the early 2000s, could be 90s as well. I think this is actually, it says 2001, but I'm pretty sure it's 90s. So yeah, Meltdown. Then we have a 90s thriller film, action thriller called Road Ends. In this one you have Dennis Hopper, Chris Sarandon, Mariel Hemingway, and Peter Coyote. I can never pronounce it. I always say Coyote. I'm not sure if that's wrong, right or wrong. Road Ends. I never seen it, but picked it up because of the cost. Then we have another one which I picked up because of the cost. This has Morgan Freeman and Christian Slater in it. Hard Rain. 90s action film. Then we have a late 80s, early 90s action thriller, I believe. This is with Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis. This film is called Too Young to Die. Yeah. Then we have this one. I mean, usually I'm not a very big fan of... I think this is supposed to be a... I'm pretty sure this has to be some sort of musical. I'm not usually a very big fan of like musicals in general, but this is directed by John Waters, and John Waters I've always found to be a quite fascinating director in general. So this is his film Hairspray. I think I might have seen the remake of this. I'm not sure if John Waters directed that. I think he was probably only like a producer or something. Didn't care too much for the remake. Not sure about this original one. Might actually like this one more than the remake one. So yeah, Hairspray. Then we have a film called Sunshine Cleaning. Once again, I picked it up because of the cost, because I think Amy Adams is a really criminally underrated actress. I think it's quite interesting because it also says it has Alan Arkin in it, rest in peace. Which it also says it's in Little Miss Sunshine. For some reason, Sunshine Cleaning sounds like it could have been like some sequel or prequel or something to that film. I'm not really sure about that, but yeah, looks interesting nonetheless. So yeah. Then we have a film from Thailand, a film called Tears of the Black Tiger. Now with a cover out like that, you can't pass on that. Yeah, looks amazing. Then we have this is a 40s film, I believe. Could be 50. Yeah, 40s film. Called, I can't read, Out of the Past, I believe that's it's called. I don't have too many older films from like the 30s, the 40s, 50s, because some people sometimes ask me, oh, how come you don't have movies from that era? The reason is some of those DVDs or Blu-rays are just so expensive, or you hardly come across them at all, at least here in Sweden. So, but this one has Robert Mitchum in it, so this could be cool. So yeah. And then we have a film called Officer Down, action thriller thing with Stephen Dorff, James Woods, and Dominic Purcell. James Woods, I feel he should be in more films. He's really one of my favorite actors in general. So yeah. Officer Down. So let's continue. The next one is an Australian. It could be New Zealand as well. I'm not really sure. It doesn't say. I think it's Australian. I'm not completely sure about this one. But Tomorrow When the War Began. The premise or the storyline of this sounded really interesting. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Red Dawn, the old ladies film. When I just read about the plot, so I thought, well, if this is an Australian version of that, or like some similar to that, I'm in for that. So yeah. Then we have this one. I'm pretty sure people are gonna laugh at me for this because this is a film that has like a really terrible reputation, and apparently doesn't really have a that good rating either, like anywhere. But I'm usually one of those people that like I'm still gonna give it a chance because I've seen some really really bad films. So usually when someone says, "Oh, that's a bad film," I usually tend to be like, "Oh, it's average," and it's okay. But this is the film Freddy Got Fingered. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more than that. So yeah, judge for yourself. Then we have the early 2000s thriller film with Jason Patrick and Ray Liotta, rest in peace, Narc. Never seen, but early 2000s and nine or early 2090s thrillers in general seems to be like the best of times for thrillers in general. So yeah, and we continue with more thrillers from the 90s. Jennifer 8 with Andy Garcia. Uma Thurman as well. I think this might be one of her earlier roles. No, wait a minute. She was also in that Johnny B. Good film, which was terrible. Then we have Desert Saints with Kiefer Sutherland. Well, let's continue. Then we have a mid 2000s action film with Johnny Messner and Stacy Keach, Ring of Death. Some fight film, martial art film. Looks interesting. And then we have a film called Sushi Girl, which looks, I mean, this looks more like an 80s or early 90s action film. But this was actually made in the early 2010s, so I think it was like 2012 or something. So yeah, and with a cast like that, I couldn't pass on it. Danny Trejo, Mark Hamill, Tony Todd, Michael Biehn, Sonny Shiba, never pronounce his name. And then we have Lars von Trier's film called A Dancer in the Dark. I've heard some really like I've heard that this is supposed to be very very depressing, but I am a fan of Antichrist. I think that might be the only. I think I might have seen another Lars von Trier film, but I can't remember it. So anyway, Dancer in the Dark. And then we have a film called, I think this is called Fat Girl in English, but Ma Soeur, which is French. That's my French pronunciation. I probably brought you that, but yeah, Fat Girl, early 2000s French film. Another film that I've heard is supposed to be really sad and depressing. So yeah, I have a friend of mine that is a big fan of depressing films. If you know who you are, you're probably gonna enjoy those two films that I just mentioned. But anyway, from that to something more, not more interesting, but something more crazy, I believe. Blubberella, which has to be some sort of weird knockoff on Barbarella, which came out in the 60s. Now, this film is directed by Uwe Boll, and people always say, "Oh, he's the worst director of all time." I'm like, "Oh, come on! You think he's the worst director? Clearly, haven't seen bad films." But anyway, this looks really stupid, so I thought I had to pick it up. I think I have most of his films at this point as well, so yeah. Then we have, now let's see, I think I already, did I? I think I've already showed you that, so there's no reason for me to show that again. Then we have Red Sonja, which is the third in the series of the Conan Barbarian series. Not seen this one, not seen the previous Conan Destroyer one. I only seen the first one, which I think is a really good like fantasy adventure action film. So, yeah. And then we have an early 80s Hong Kong film called Super Dynamo. Yeah, looks really interesting. Seems to be very obscure as well because I think it only has like 14 or 15 votes on IMDb. So, yeah. Now let's continue with the next stack. Now the first one in this stack we have Police Assassins, which I think is also known as Yes Madame. This was released on Blu-ray not too long ago by Eureka. I have the sequels to this one on Blu-ray, but I missed out on this first one, so I thought, well, I need to get it in some way, so I bought this DVD instead. Heard some really good things about this series in general, with some really great action sequences and stunts in general, so yeah. Police Assassins. And then we have another film which has a terrible reputation, but I'm like, oh, I don't care about reputations, so I'm gonna judge for myself. Ishtar, with Isabella Gianni, Warren Beatty, and Dustin Hoffman. And then we have I think this is actually some sort of drama film. I'm not completely sure if this is a drama film or not, but it sounds interesting to me for like Jim Carrey to appear in a film like that. But The Majestic, yeah, early 2000s. I think this is a. Is this directed? Yeah, this is directed by Frank Darabont. That is quite interesting. And then we have a film called Incognito. and this is has to be another 90s thriller. Can't pass on those. And then we continue with more thrillers from the 90s, I believe. Yeah, it has to be 90s. Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead with Andy Garcia. Then we have an action film from the 90s called Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton. So yeah. Then we have a Western film from the 2000s, which you don't see very often. That's the reason why I picked it up. A film called Blueberry. Blueberry? Is that? Yeah, Blueberry. So yeah. It's a film directed by some guy called Jan Kuonen. And that sounds Finnish to me, so I'm not sure if that's the Finnish guy or not. So yeah. Then we have some more Japanese stuff. This one is called Metropolis. Early 2000s animated film. Yeah, I couldn't pass on that, so yeah. Then we have a film with Demi Moore from the 90s, a comedy film called The Butcher's Wife. Yeah. And then we have a film which this looks really crazy and really stupid and retarded, so that's the reason why I picked it up. A film called King Frat. A really like obscure, I think this is supposed to be some sort of like Animal House, Porky's thing ripoff, even though I think this might have come out before. Yeah, this came out before Porky's, so I think it might have been inspired by Animal House. So yeah, there you go, King Frat. And then we have this one. This is one of the best films with Hulk Hogan, Secret Agent Club. So this is, to be fair, this is a really so bad it's good type of film. It's really hilarious and really stupid, but it's so charming as well. So yeah, Secret Agent Club. And it has a really stupid theme song in the end credits, which is really funny as well. So yeah, Secret Agent Club. So now we continue with the next stack. Now this is the last stack before we continue with the horror titles. So yeah, first up we have Seraphim Falls, which I saw on TV not too long ago, and I really enjoyed it. I think I might have mentioned it in one of my top 5 of the month for the month of some months. So anyway, Seraphim Falls, really good film, really great Western film with Liam Neeson and Pierce Brosnan. And then we have a trauma film, which is called Tuesday Never Comes. Seems to be very obscure early 90s action film, so couldn't pass on that because it has trauma over it, so yeah. Then we continue with more trauma. Now this is actually a horror film. The reason why I included it in this stack was just because that other film is an action film and this is a horror film, and I thought, well, it's still trauma, so yeah. The Unspeakable, or just Unspeakable, from the early 2000s, so yeah. And then we have a film called Angels Dance, 90s action film with Jim Belushi, or James Belushi, however his name is now pronounced these days. And then we have a film from the 60s, which I think is some sort of rip-off, like a James Bond rip-off film by Antonio Margheriti, I believe. Lightning Bolt. Yeah. And then we have an 80s comedy film from the UK, I believe. Gregory's Girl. Yeah. And now this one I just really need to get hold of, because this is another film directed by Antonio Margheriti. This is early 80s sci-fi action adventure schlock, apparently. The Ark of the Sun God. Yeah, really amazing cover art. That's actually an Italian release. And then we have more Japanese stuff. This one is actually some sort of like miniseries. 13 episodes in total. This one is called The Skull Man. I have to admit I picked it up because of the cover art, and yeah, this is also a play. I bought this from a place that sold DVDs, and then they announced that they weren't going to sell any DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. So I thought, well, I need to get a hold of that before they close down for good in that category, or like in that, in that section or whatever. And then we have Samurai Marathon. Yeah, apparently directed by the same guy who directed Candyman, the original one. And then we have Bill and Ted Face the Music. I'm a big fan of the first two ones. Not seen this one yet. I've heard some mixed things about this one. But yeah, the other two are really amazing. So yeah. Then we have a film called The Skulls with Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker. Yeah, 90s, I believe, or it might be early 2000, not really sure. Now, I'm not really sure if I might have showed you some of these films before. I'm not really sure. But anyway, the next one is Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. And then we have the classic film, which I've never seen before. So I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't seen this one before. But Midnight Express, prison film. And then we have... Okay, this only has Swedish title and the Italian title, but Rome Open City, I believe it's called in English. So yeah, 40s, yeah, 40s film. And then we have Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and this is from the 60s, I believe. So yeah. And now this one, I'm not even sure which. Terror in the Midnight Sun, I believe it's called in English. This is actually a Swedish, like, sci-fi horror film or something from like the 50s, which is very bizarre. Yeah. Then we have Bangkok Dangerous. I've seen the remake with Nicolas Cage and I thought it was kind of average. Never seen the original one, but always wanted to see it. So yeah, glad I found that. And then we have Soul Vengeance. Now this one I picked up. I think this is some sort of like blaxploitation film from the 70s. Now the reason why I picked this one up was because of the weird concept. If you haven't read about this one, read about this film, and you're gonna say, why was this made, and like who came up with that idea. Then we have Jim Brown, another actor who sadly passed away this year, in Slaughter's Big Ripoff. I have the first one before, but I have yet to see it actually. So, but I'm really glad I found this one. So yeah. And then the last one in this stack, before the horror films, Kickboxer 5: The Redemption. First one, great. Second one, okay, pretty cool. Part 3, kind of so bad it's good. Part 4, atrocious. Part 5, I'm probably gonna guess that that's probably gonna be bad as well. But I mean, I'm still gonna have an open mind to that. So yeah. I'll continue with the next stack. The next one is horror film from from Thailand. A film called Sick Nurses. Now this sounds interesting because it says Hostel meets The Grudge. Don't miss. Yeah, right there. And then we have some Category 3 Hong Kong things. A Chinese torture chamber story. I think this one also has a sequel, so if I like this one, I might try to get hold of the second one. And then we have more Asian weirdness. The Eternal Evil of Asia. Yeah. And then we have another Japanese horror film called Shikoku. Probably butchered that title as well, but yeah. Then we have Shanbara Beauty, more Japanese stuff. And then we have a film by Takashi Miike, so I decided to pick up both of these. Zebra Man and Zebra Man 2, right there. Then we have a film called La Petite Mort, La Petite Mort, which is strange because I think this is a like a German film, but for some reason it has like French title like to that. So I thought that's really strange, but low budget horror film. Then we have Ryan Nicholson's Hanger. He seems to be really directing really gruesome and bloody, gory films in general. I have seen this one before, but I thought, well, it was kind of so-so. But then I thought, well, I'm gonna give it another chance. And and Gutter Balls is just utterly disgusting in some ways. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah. Then we have a Swedish horror film, believe it or not. This is from the early 2000s, and I've heard this is like trying to capitalize on the success of Blair Witch Project, which came out 1 year prior to this. But I think this is known as The Unknown. Early 2000s, like Swedish horror film. So yeah. Then we have a film directed by Ruggero Deodato. I think this is this might have been actually the very last film he directed. Ballad in Blood. Yeah. Then we have more Asian stuff. This is a Japanese. I'm not sure if this is actually a horror film or not. Now, when I come think of it, but anyway, the film is called The Blue Light. Yeah. Then we have more Japanese weirdness. Now this one actually doesn't have the title on the front cover, but this is Mei Shan's Daily Life, the movie, which is very gruesome and really disgusting to a certain degree. I'm not even going to show you that front cover because I'm probably going to get flagged if I show that. So, yeah, let's leave it at that. Then we have another film from Thailand, I believe, a film called 13. Never seen before, but always wanted to see it. So, yeah. Then we have a film which I watched a couple of years ago. I think it might have been 2 years ago now. The Shadow. What's it called in English? It's it's just like the German title for this. I think it's The Shadow of Kilimanjaro or something. With these like weird creatures right there with the monkeys. There's a really like depressing scene in this one. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about probably. There's some animals in harm's way, so to say. Then we have The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, which I think is supposed to be some sort of sequel to Rose Red, the miniseries, which I have yet to see. So, yeah, right there. On that next deck. The next one, we have a film called Cannibals by Jess Franco. I think this is also known as something else. I think it's also known as Mondo Cannibale and White Cannibal Queen, apparently, according to this in the back of this DVD. So, Jess Franco and Cannibals could be fun. Then we have a 4-pack right here with the films Up from the Depths, Piranha, Demon of Paradise, and Humanoids from the Deep. Now, the reason why I picked up this 4-pack was because of Up from the Depths and Demon of Paradise, because those two I had not seen before and I didn't have those in the collection before. So, yeah. Piranha is a really entertaining film. Now, the next one is a mid-2000s horror film called Stag Night. Yeah. With, what's his name? Scott Adkins and Breckenmeyer. Then we have a Paul Naschy type film called Exorcismo type film. This is a Paul Naschy film. I mean, he didn't direct it, but I mean, he is in it. So yeah, Exorcismo. Then we have another Nicolas Cage film called Willy's Wonderland. Yeah. And then we have a film called Bad Candy. And I think this is some sort of anthology film. Apparently the singer of Slipknot plays a major role in this one, so that could be interesting. Corey Taylor. And Zach Galligan, apparently. That's quite interesting. Zach Galligan. Then we have more like Halloween type stuff, apparently. Halloween Party. Pretty much a blind buy, but sounds interesting nonetheless. And now we have another Swedish horror film, which I don't even know if it has a English title, but if you search for this one, like that title on IMDb or like Letterboxd or whatever thing you use, you might be able to find it. But I've heard that this cover art doesn't make sense for the film, because apparently this character doesn't even appear in the film. But yeah, I'm not really sure. And then we have a really funny creature feature film called Frankenfish. It's a stupid film, but it's entertaining nonetheless. Then we have God Loves You, Satan Hates You. Now this one I picked up because of the cost. As Michael Berryman, Deborah Shawn, Angus Scrimm, and Reggie Bannister in it, among others. So yeah. And then we have a film which I think is directed by one of the lead actresses in Subspecies 2 and 3. And 4 when I come to think of it, but Vampire Resurrection. Yeah. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the Subspecies series, but it's a vampire film nonetheless, so yeah. Now, the next one, we have a Japanese, I don't even know how to categorize this, because this is a really strange and weird film. Cure. Watched this quite recently. I thought it was really cool and weird, but then again, I think I might need to rewatch it, because I think there's some bits in it that I just didn't understand, so yeah. Then we have another Japanese horror film, or like horror comedy apparently, called Negative Happy Chainsaw Edge. Now with a cover art like that, you can't pass on that, so yeah. Then we have a film with Lance Henriksen and Eric Roberts, Nature of the Beast, from the mid 2000s. So yeah. And then we have I Spit on Your Corpse, released by Troma. Now this I think is also known as something else. Can't really remember the name of it at the moment, because I think this was called something else before, and then I think they tried to capitalize on the success of I Spit on Your Grave or something, and then they like renamed it to I Spit on Your Corpse. So yeah, anyway, Troma film. So yeah, it could be interesting. Then we have a film called Alice, which I've heard mixed things about, but I'm still gonna give it another chance. So it feels like I really need to speed up. Then we have Fertile Ground. Yeah. And we have a film simply called Hell. This is another film from Thailand, I believe. So yeah. Then we have, not sure if this, yeah, this once again another film from Thailand, I believe. Ghost Game. Yeah. Then we have Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from the 90s with Robert De Niro and Kenneth Branagh. Then we have The Perfect Neighbor, which came out in the mid 2000s. Maybe more of a thriller, I'm not really sure, but yeah, gonna give it a chance. And then we have the late, now this is from 2009, my bad, Slaughter. Yeah, once again, terrible title. Now this one I've heard so many good things about this one, so I always thought, well, there's no way I'm gonna check this one out when it was new. So, but I'm still, I want to check it out eventually. So, Hereditary. So yeah, if I like that one, I'm probably gonna pick up that director's other film, Midsummer. And then we have Invasion. Once again with these like one title things, it's just really bad. But this one has C. Thomas Howell in it and Jake Busey. So yeah. Talking about Busey, and here comes the daddy, Gary Busey, in Portraits of a Vampire. Let's see here. The next one is called Red, White, and Blue. Might be more of an action film. I'm not really sure. Maybe a thriller. Not really sure. But anyway, sounds interesting. So yeah. And then we have a film with Casper Van Dien called Slayer or The Slayer. This is from 2006, and I believe this might have been one of those like made-for-TV horror films. So, yeah. And then we have a film called Revelation from the early 2000s. Yeah. Continue once again. Then we have 2012 Zombie Apocalypse. I think this is another one of those made-for-TV films. So, yeah. Right there. And then we have a film called The Wicked, which I've been told is like some sort of witch film. I think there hasn't been made too many witch films in general, so I'm always fascinated by that type of premise. And then we have The Violent Kind, some spatter film, horror spatter film. Then we have a film with Malcolm McDowell, Lou Diamond Phillips, and Robert Englund, among others, Sanitarium, with like a fancy slipcover right there. Yeah. To be fair, I never really understood the reason why you have a slipcover when the slipcover is the same thing as the original cover itself. I've never really understood that. Then we have The Evil Beneath Loch Ness. I think this is some sort of sci-fi made-for-TV film. At least it has the looks of it. Then we have the classic film Eight-Legged Freaks. This is funny, stupid, camp, fun film, general. Then we have a film that might be more of a thriller, but yeah, ended up in this stack. Demons from Her Past. Once again, I think this is another one of those made-for-TV films. Then we have a Bigfoot film, or killer Bigfoot film, with Lance Henriksen called The Untold. I think this was quite tricky to come across back in the day, so I thought, well, I need to get all of that. Then we have Paris Hilton in 9 Lives. Now, I think it's quite stupid because according to the back of this DVD, it says Paris Hilton, the person we love to hate or something. That sounds weird. I mean, I can't say I'm a big fan of Paris Hilton in general, but I thought that was quite weird to put that on like a DVD cover. Anyway, the next one is actually a triple pack of films. The Tall Man, When the Lights Went Out, and The Silent House. I picked this triple pack up mainly because of the tall man. I thought that sounds interesting. The other two are like kind of bonus thing in my opinion. So yeah. Anyway, there we have the Lost Horror stack right here. Then we continue with the Blu-rays. First up, we have Night of the Sharks. Seen this one before. Thought it was kind of stupid, but I thought, well, I'm gonna give it another chance. Then we have a film that I've never heard anyone talk about. That's the reason why I picked it up. The Darkest Hour from the mid 2000s, some sort of like horror splatter film. And then we have a 70s giallo, I believe. Is it 70s? It has to be 70s, right? Yeah, 1970 actually. In the Folds of the Flesh. Yeah. Then we have a film which I've seen once before, and I thought it was quite stupid because it kind of spoiled the entire film in the first like minute or so. It actually felt like a trailer, to be fair. But I'm still gonna give it another chance because I do remember some of the blood and gore effects were being really good in this one. The Abomination, yeah, from the mid 80s. Then we have like a miniseries directed by Satoshi Kon, who directed Paprika and Perfect Blue. Paranoia Agent, yeah. Then we have the next three films. I have seen this one I'm going to show you now, but I've not seen the other two. This is part of a series. Wrong Turn, Bloody Beginnings. I've seen this once before and I did not like it at all, but I thought, well, still going to give it a chance and rewatch it. Might like it. And then just because of that, the same seller sold me the other two. So Wrong Turn, Bloodlines. Yeah. And the last one, Wrong Turn 6, Last Resort. To be fair, I have no interest in watching that remake, whatever that came out. That looks really terrible in my opinion. So, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Then we have a film called Breeders, which is not supposed to be confused with The Breeders from the 80s, which is a really stupid and bad film in my opinion. This is from the late 90s. Heard some really bad things about this one as well, to be fair, but I thought, well, horror, low budget horror film from the 90s or 80s. I'm always open minded when it comes to those. So then we have a film called Caged. This is a film from, I'm not sure if it's from France or if it's from Canada. It's from France, sorry. Caged, French horror film. Then we have a 5 killer creature features right here. The ones included in this one is Killers from Space, Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, Destroy All Planets, Attack of the Monsters, and Sound of Horror. Now, the stupid thing about this particular release is because I didn't realize I actually already had like 2 or 3 of these films in like a box set because they were like under other titles. So I had not seen 2 of these films, or like I don't have 2 of these films before in my collection. So yeah. Anyway, then we continue with more creature features. Then we have a film called Stung with Lance Henriksen once again. Not sure that, yeah, it's the same cover art underneath that slip cover, so there's no reason for me to show you that. Then we have a film called We Are What We Are. No, this is a Spanish film, sorry. Almost said French there for a second. Then we have a film from New Zealand, yeah. And obviously it has Tamara Morrison in it. Fresh Meat. Yeah. And we have a film called Cold Sweat. I think this is directed by... I'm just really missing out here. Yeah, this is directed by the same guy who did I Shall Never Die Alone, or whatever it was called. So, yeah, Cold Sweat. Then we have a film called Cheap Thrills, which looks more of a comedy than anything else. I'm not really sure if that's true or not, but anyway, Cheap Thrills. Then we have a film with Sid Haig and Ken Foree, Brotherhood of Blood, some sort of vampire film. Then we have a film called Panic Button, a film from the UK. Then we have a film from Spain, once again, called Hypnose. Hypnose, yeah. Then we have a Korean horror film called Phone. Yeah. And then we have a horror film from... Not sure where this comes... Yeah, it's an American one. It's just a German release. That's the reason why I was really confused. Heartstopper with Robert Englund. Then we have a film with Tracy Lords and Dina Meyer in it, and the film is called Crazy Eights. Yeah. And then we have a film called The She-Beast. Now this one I picked up because of the cover art, because come on, look at that. You can't pass on that. Well, let's see here. The next one in this stack, or the last one in this stack, is The Curse of Bigfoot. Just based on what I've read about this sounds to be a really stupid and retarded film, so I thought, well, it could be interesting, so yeah. Now finally we've come to the Blu-rays. First up we have Evil Laugh. Seen this before. I thought this was quite underrated 80s slasher film. And then we have a 70s Bigfoot film called Shriek of the Mutilated. Then we have this one. I think I had this before in DVD, I'm not really sure, but Galaxy of Terror. And then we have this one. I mainly picked this one up because of the sequel, which I didn't have in the collection before, but Deadly Prey and Deadliest Prey by David A. Pryor. Then we have Asian action film called The Millionaire's Express. Yeah. And then we have the Japanese horror film called Kwaidan. Yeah. Some sort of anthology horror film. Then we have King Kong versus Godzilla. Really looking forward to see this one. Apparently this is one of two versions of the film. Not sure if this is the American one or the Japanese one, but yeah, I have yet to see that. I'm not going to see this one until I've watched the original King Kong. So yeah, believe it or not, I've never seen the original King Kong. Then we have this one. I picked this one up because I'm a huge fan of it. One of the best Swedish horror films of all time. Evil Ed. Really amazing. Great splatter, great gore effects, quite funny premise as well. Then we have a film called Night Shift from the early 80s. Comedy film. Then we have My Blue Heaven, which I thought was alright, a little bit stupid from time to time, but it's still acceptable. Then we have the Executioner collection, which has both the two Executioner films. The Executioner and what's the sequel called? The Executioner Karate Inferno. Yeah, with Son Shiba. So yeah, there we go. I've almost been talking for almost 15 minutes now. It's probably my longest video ever. Not really sure, but anyway, hope you enjoy this one and keep your eyes open for the next one. So yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.